Welcome everybody on this webinar on mental health organized by ERYICA. My name is Dick Smit. I will be your host during this webinar together with Angelina Pereira from ERYICA, who does all the technical stuff on the background behind the scene. Before we start this webinar, we have some housekeeping rules. As you have found out when you started the Zoom session, you probably saw that the Zoom session will be recorded and will be streamed. If you want to be sure that your face doesn't come on screen, just close your camera. Another thing is, after each session and after each speaker, there's a possibility to ask questions. Everyone now is muted. If you have a question, raise your hand, and you do that if you have a look underneath your screen. There is an icon which says reactions. If you click on that, you have a possibility to raise your hand, and if I give you the floor, you unmute yourself, and after you've asked your question, you mute yourself again. It's always difficult when we are with such a large group to get to know each other, but we still try to do that by using Mentimeter. Angelina will put a link on for Mentimeter in the chat box. If you have problems with seeing anything, just put it in the chat and we will try to solve the problem, because there is a difference in screens on desktop, laptop, mobile, etc. So it works a bit different. We ask a question if you are on Mentimeter, and you will answer the question, and we'll have a bit of a look on which people are joining us. The first question we have is, where are you following this webinar from? Which country? You can answer the question, and here are some results. It looks like Luxembourg, Spain, and Belgium have the most participants. Estonia, North Macedonia. It is quite a European audience. Thank you. The next question is, what is your profession? Are you a youth worker or a youth information worker? Are you a teacher, another youth professional, a policymaker, a civil servant, a young person interested in the topic, or other? We have now 20. There is a total of 48 participants. We have 28 reactions, and most of the participants are youth workers or youth information workers, some other youth professionals, and even, luckily, some young people interested in the topic. Thank you. The last question is, how familiar are you with the topic on mental health? Is it new to you? Do you have a good understanding of the topic, or are you an expert on the topic? Okay, that's interesting. 22 people are saying that they have a good understanding of the topic, and that means that we might expect some very interesting questions after each presentation. Thank you, and now we have a bit of a view on the participants on this webinar. I will now like to give the floor to Eva, who is the director of ERYICA. Eva, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dick. Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome to this webinar on behalf of ERYICA, and we are very glad that this is a topic that interests you and that you're joining us. We will try to find out more about young people's mental health, about the role of youth information, about the views of experts. We are organizing this webinar in cooperation with the Council of Europe in the framework of our partnership, and I would like to take the opportunity to thank them for making possible our event today. This topic has been chosen by youth information workers at different occasions in which we have been trying to raise questions of what kind of areas they would like to know more about. Besides that, in January 2021, ERYICA conducted a very short survey on emotional well-being of young people in the framework of our European Youth Information Day campaign. 2021, meaning really like in the middle of the pandemic, or in the Ecuador, or in the middle of that mess that we all experienced in 2020, 2021. And we gather over 1,800 responses of young people from 46 different countries, where they actually show us how they were impacted by the pandemic, how their emotional well-being and their mental health related to, I mean, because of that experience of having to be isolated, to have fewer opportunities to attend school, to access the job markets, for the limitation indeed of leisure activities, how that impacted their well-being, and especially of the most vulnerable ones. So we contrasted this information with testimonials of 115 youth information professionals from across our network, where they actually confirmed that they had been approached by many young people who were in distress, who were suffering mental health issues, and that in a way they were feeling very limited to give support to them because of the lack of resources or knowledge on this of this topic. So in this situation requires very specific and professional guidance. We are aware of that. We also are aware that youth information workers and youth workers can definitely play a role in supporting young people's emotional well-being and resilience, and also in helping them to prevent mental health issues. However, we are also aware that it is key that they are well connected with mental health professionals, and that they acquire as well some mental health literacy to be able to respond to this. So we will try to discuss here what is the role of youth information, how we can be prepared to exercise this role, and as well what are our limits indeed as youth information workers and youth workers. So we really hope that you will have an interesting and engaging event, that you will end up with some new knowledge and some new contacts, and we hope that it will be useful and helpful for your daily work with young people. So I will stop here. Enjoy the event, and thanks for being there.
Thank you, Eva. Our first keynote speaker is Luis Huicam Garcia Lopez, and is a professor, a psychology professor at the University of Jaén. His presentation is about promoting emotional health and well-being in young people. The floor is yours.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to thank you, ERYICA President of the Council of Europe, just to bring this presentation, this webinar. Nice to meet you, everyone. I'd like to provide some information about promotion of emotional well-being and health for adolescents. And I'd like to have some information, provide some information about some actions that are providing and some needs that we need. So, yeah, thank you. So as you may see here in the slide, we work with I like to acknowledge our external advisory board, who is composed by NGOs, governmental institutions, and users, Youth Council, and National Youth Institute, to make sure that youth voices are listened. I'm sure now we work together with another institutions across Spain, outside of Spain. I'll try to stick into the 20-minute presentation just to leave some minutes for Q&As. So moving to the next slide, I'm just going to provide some overview about what we want to say about emotions and adolescence. WHO has stressed that adolescents are the greatest source for a society to thrive. That meaning that investments adolescents has three benefits: healthy adolescents now, healthy adults in the future, healthy future generations. And this is crucial because, as we can see in the slide, WHO has also provided some information about the epidemiology, the prevalence of the emotional problems in young people. As you may see, the estimation was in 2018, it was expected that 625 million people was expecting to have emotional problems. That was an estimation, and the importance of adolescents because 50% of all mental health disorders start by age 14 and 3/4 before 25. So as we may see in the next slide, this is going to change because of information about pre-pandemic and after pandemic. Before the pandemic, we knew that 110 million youth people were evidence youth distress, meaning emotional or like anxiety or depression. And the COVID-19 pandemic has amplified this race. There's an increase in depression symptoms, negative affect, and loneliness among adolescents. Now we're going to see in the next slide the information about data after the pandemic, because things sadly had changed. We suffer an unprecedented increase in emotional problems among young people. The Lancet paper said about a 28 increase of additional cases for depression and 26% for anxiety, meaning that from the 110 million people, young people suffering from emotional problems, in just 1 year increased 30 additional million. Our data is estimated that now 140 million youth people are having emotional problems, emotional distress. In addition, another 350 million young people are at risk of developing emotional problems. So this data pose a concern and challenge for families, educators, health, and youth professionals. Having a look at the at-risk data in the next slide, we will be able to see that even though we have this information about the 350 million adolescents at risk, only less than half of those will receive appropriate treatment. And the reason, most of the reasons are due to the barriers as a low identification of a risk individual, but also because there is still a gap of information in the global health and social policies about how to address adolescents or youth distress. Moving to the next slide. We'll see that the United Nations in 2020, just a few months after the beginning of the pandemic, released a documented policy brief, the impact of COVID-19 on children. And that document already stressed there was an urgent need to increase the investment of mental health resources because we are going to be facing a massive increase in mental health problems in the next months. And that became a reality, as we know. And as we already know about the PROEM roadmap, there's no feature without emotional healthy adolescents. So we are going to provide some additional data in the next slide. So this is even more important because we know that youth distress has a particular role in the prevention of suicide. The data are really striking that every 40 seconds someone dies by suicide, and in young people, suicide is the second leading cause of death. And depression, like emotional problems, is the risk factor that most contribute to suicide along with previous suicide attempts. This is so important that, as you can see in the next slide, the September 10th has been devoted to the World Suicide Prevention Day, and the WHO has released some gifts and information just to reduce about some misunderstanding about suicide prevention. Here is information about for males, this and the next one. And the next slide, you'll see about females. And in the next slide, we'll see some signs. So as you can see in this slide, you'll see some signs that youth professionals and other professionals in the education and health sector can also have a look. And if you see, at least 6 out of 10 are related to the emotional symptoms, meaning that there is the emotional health and well-being is really related to the suicide. So we can prevent or to provide resilience to adolescents. We can also prevent at some extent suicide behaviors. So moving on. Yeah, there are some populations that are even in higher stress. So as we can see in this slide, you can see people like in suffering with disabilities, minorities. We say minorities meaning that sexual, religious, ethnic, and linguistic. So we know that the population is even a higher risk of suffering distress. As you may see in the next slide, just to put an example, some data, as said, for the LGBTI plus population, there is up to 70% of prevalence of suicide attempts due to the minority stress. That's a higher increase compared to heterosexual youth. What signs can we see in this kind? What tips can we see? Having a look to the next slide. Here in this study, we can see about some information that we can see that have some role to identify risk of resilience or protective factors. So in the next slide, we can see that investment in the treatment of anxiety and depression has a particular role, because WHO has provided a gift that will be seen in the next seconds, and say that if we can provide $1, we can receive a return of 4. So that's meaning that this is a good investment for societies. That's in the next slide. Yeah, that one. Good. So in the next slide, even though investment is good, even though with that we know that just 3% of total government health it goes to mental health. So we need to do much more investment just to make sure that people who are suffering and just people who are at risk or have distress receive attention. So moving to the next slide. Because that's important that no one left behind. And we need to make sure that every young people receive the attention they need, regardless of their country, nationality, or gender. Next slide, please. And another identifying needs are associated with adolescents' emotional health and well-being were developed in these roadmap recommendations that we develop along with end users, families, young people, the health and the educative sector. This document is available in English, Spanish, and also in Catalan, because I've seen that some of our people in our audience are from that region, so they may also read that in their own language. So those are the identifying needs, and that's something that is also included in the next slide with the document that the Parliamentary Assembly for the Council of Europe developed this document focusing on addressing the health needs of adolescents in Europe, mentioned in this document because the Council of Europe is very much concerned about the health needs of adolescents and include a particular section for mental health. Next slide, please. Yeah, and also the WHO provides some recommendations saying that how important is the promotion of emotional health, emotional health and prevention of problems, particularly working even though with non-specialized healthcare facilities, like in this case, community centers and other schools and other settings where youth people can be supported. And psychological interventions are one of those who are highly highlighted in this document. Yeah, and just a few months ago, the WHFMH released this document, say, make mental health and well-being for all a global priority. And they say that there's increased evidence that the prevention of mental difficulties is possible by using general and target evidence-based interventions. And in the next slide, we'll be talking about what they mean with target and universal. As you can see in this figure, universal in red, yes, provide information for everyone, to be identified at risk even. Selective is when you develop intervention that's preventive, and that's for people who are at risk. Indicated is for one of those who are at high risk, and treatment are people who has a clinical diagnosis. So selective and indicated is also called target preventive intervention. So this document is talking about how important is selective and indicated preventive interventions for people at risk or at high risk. Sure enough, universal preventive interventions just to provide psychoeducation about emotions are useful, but we need just to focus much more on people who already exhibit some risk or high risk of developing emotional problems. And in the next slide, we can provide even more, some new data from this year and saying also about why selective preventive approach is so important. And we know that adolescence is a very critical period of time where adolescents can gain protective knowledge, and this is critical to promote resilience and healthy development. And there are also some changes that we're facing now because of the climate change, that now more people is started having or reporting eco-anxiety, and also MHE just released a paper on mental health and geopolitical crisis. So there are some changes that we need to pay attention, and some minorities and some people who may move from countries due to the climate change, refugees, and so on. That means that they already exhibit risk factors. So I want just to give some tips for successful actions as a glance, and these tips are focused on what youth workers can do to identify youth in distress, to provide first-hand help to provide that information that help to the students, and even how to cooperate with mental health providers. So those are some of the actions that we participate in or lead, and the external advisory board you can also see there. Yeah, so the first one is the REMUS. The REMUS is interdisciplinary team because we work with people from these different disciplines like corpus linguistics, big data, epigenetics, anthropology, linguistics, just to provide some tips about how to early detect adolescents at risk. And the REMUS findings has the role, or is aimed to equip education, health, and youth work professionals with tools to identify or to be able to differentiate between adolescents, emotional healthy adolescents, compared to those who are at risk or have risk, because those with emotional disorders were referred to specialized services. And these entities are part of our external advisory board, including young people, stakeholders, and all their views are considered and incorporated into the project at all states. So in the next slide, this is just a picture about who some of our team members. Moving on. So I'm going just to provide some tips going beyond the test, just for not all thinking about to administer a test just to see that person is at risk or not. So these tips are tips for error detection for our team. So from the corpus linguistics approach, we found the girls express different than the boys, in the mean that they express much more mental verbs related to, like, for example, as you see in the next bubbles that are going to appear now. Yeah, they use about the theme, believe, reckon, much more in the clinical group compared to other groups. When a girl starts using much more these verbs, that means that they may be suffering distress. And in the next slide, yeah, the using the metaphors, that this is something that our expert, Dr. Diaz-Bergmar, analyzed, that she found that there is a difference because the females use much more metaphors to express some words related to depression. And sorry, because these words are the corpus is the rebus corpus is in Spanish, so I can just put these bubbles in Spanish. And they also identify females adolescents with emotional disorder, use much more metaphors to refer to happiness than any other emotion. Like another sentence, sorry, in Spanish, say, me trae por la calle la basura. So going to the next slide, yeah. The thing is, the results, thanks to analysis language in the rebus corpus, may offer health providers, the educative sector, the youth professionals. This may complement traditional techniques as measures to detect adolescents at risk. But along with this information, epigenetics may also play a role, as you can see in the next slide. Yeah. Epigenetics reveal something that is the hypomethylation of two specific sites of one gene, increase 40 times the risk of developing emotional polyps, but only in boys compared to healthy adolescents. In 9 higher risk of boys, if we compare high risk boys compared to those who only exhibit risk factors. So we are talking about now differentiate between selective and indicated prevention. So that means that the boys may exhibit low methylation both sides on a specific gene, which also has this specifically to almost 90%. And in this slide, I can provide two QR. So on the right side, you can see the QR for a video for the corporate linguistics, where all this information is much more disclosed, because we have a particular time, and I don't want to take too much time from the other presenters. But if anyone in this room wants, they can scan on the right side and get a video. And this is made with, it's a very youth-friendly video, because we work together with the young population just to develop this video. And on the left side, you can have information about the video about epigenetics. So I just wanted to give some tips. And for further information, you can just scan the QRs and download the video, which is in English and also in Spanish. So this was about the rebus. I'd like just to move to ProCare. ProCare is another intervention because the rebus was to early identify youth at risk. And ProCare provide intervention to those who suffer, those young youth people that suffer distress. And also in app, you can have this our state advisory board by the Youth Institute and the Youth Council, and all with minorities and users and NGOs. And the next slide, just to briefly talk about this intervention, evidence-based interventions to helping adolescents at risk, and using this selective preventive intervention and to reduce the effect of risk factors and enhance protective factors. And this has revealed to be effective even 2 months after the intervention. And we did two things that revealed to be particularly efficacious. It was the implemented booster session and add-on modules. And we do this kind of like a screening, assessment, and then we implemented the intervention and a booster session, pretty much like the COVID schema about how to detect and to treat. And in the next slide, I'm just going to provide more information about this because ProCare engages with communities, stakeholders, adolescent cares on all stages, and just to make sure that we value their voices and perspectives in decision-making processes. Because we found that young people is very much willing to participate in protocols that are at risk, but even though to reduce the stigma and also telepsychology. This is just some pick from our teams members and young people who participate as therapists, or to provide support to people who suffering, just people who was suffering distress. And something that I feel very humble is that the Remus and ProCare received the Dynamia 2022 award by the Youth Information Workers Associations. And we were really happy that not only received credit from the academia, but also from the society sector. And the Remus and ProCare finally were mental health resilience evidence-based protocols to emotionally support and reason people that were developed during the pandemic times, and now we're going to be developed in some communities, in some regions in our country, in Spain, thanks to support of the Department of Health, Department of Education of Health, all the health institutes in our country. Because we are moving from universal selected and indicated, universal general population selected at risk, as we said before, indicated high risk. So as you may see in the next slide, we provided ProCare for people at risk in the next slide, but also we found when we were doing ProCare Plus that many of the children, many of the young people move from a risk to high risk in a few weeks. So we developed also ProCare I, ProCare for indicated purposes. That is the appears in the next slide. So just to have an overview about that, there are some sessions in group and some add-on modules. And in the next slide, this has a lot of information, but some tips that we can support. I think that the youth professionals, the youth workers could be really useful for creating helpful, practical goals that are the first step. And this is the SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-based. Because if we work with the educative, health, and youth sector, they can be very useful to provide the first-hand help for adolescents, and then to provide, to refer to specialized services, and even to provide selective or indicated interventions. Actually, in the next slide, you'll be able to see, and again, there are two videos. I don't want to take too much time, but just you can scan on the left side the ProCare Plus, which is the selective prevention. You can say in English, but you can also download in Spanish. And in the right side, yeah, you can see ProCare I for indicated. And there you can find all the information on the results, and how it's done, and how can youth workers, the educative, the teachers can provide some information into implement these interventions in their own setting. So moving to the next slide, we'll see also the Level Up. Level Up is Erasmus Plus KA2 grant and led by the University of Cyprus, along with the Netherlands, Greece, and Spain. And we, Level Up is developing or creating some materials for young people, and they are free. People can download for free, and in the next slide, you may see these resources, and in the next slide, we can just provide a specific, like a first-hand help. And this is also provided with all the information people can download in that website. And you can see for young people, we develop these materials thanks to the support of the European Erasmus system about transversal skills, things that can be useful, like social skills, how to get connected with others, and so on. We are running a little bit out of time, so next slide, please. Digitas, we provide some resources to enhance the emotional health literacy of people with like the health, educative, and youth workers and society in general, and develops materials like you can see in the next slide. Provide digital tools. And actually, one of the things that we've been working is to create a podcast series in which adolescents on their own participated. Everything's been launched, and the series are able to voice the concerns about the importance of mental health and well-being, because this is one of the main concerns that adolescents and young people have at this time. And in the next slide, we'll see just some podcasts. They are available in iBooks. And in the next slide, we see the last one, ProAdimo, just being granted. ProAdimo is aimed to develop a complete digital training package aimed at the school, personal, youth, and healthcare workers to improve their social knowledge to deliver mental health services to adolescents at risk, but also to develop a practical emotional provider toolkit and an emotional youth aid toolkit, co-produced with the adolescents. Because we value the adolescent voice in all this process. And in the next slide is just the last part, because we know that the European Union's Plan for Children's Rights, published in March 2021, include children's participation among the top 6 aims. So following ProCare's findings, ProAdimo has this, make sure that all the documents here are in child-friendly language, like the videos that I just include the QR before, and consult with adolescents with developing guidelines for these national and European policies and all the inputs, just to make sure that we bring their voices and perspectives to the decision-making process. And this is starting in a few, next month, actually. Finally, in the next slide, I would just to say what lies ahead. No? So the first thing is, I think the inter-survey work and engaged teams are crucial, that we need to ensure youth-friendly information for and with young people to make sure that they have access to understandable and reliable information, to make sure that they have access to evidence-based early intervention and preventive intervention protocols to reach adolescents at risk, because we know that also can potentially prevent other mental health problems and suicide behaviors. The second one is based on the European Training Strategy for Youth Work, associated by the SALTO network. We know that the competence-based capacity building for youth workers is crucial, and with the unprecedented increase of emotional difficulties in young people, it's essential that youth workers are prepared and equipped to respond to youth at risk of emotional distress. So, sure enough, recognition of youth workers is beyond debate, but another thing that we can think for the future is maybe they could benefit from acquiring additional skills by developing modular classes to eliminate and address emotional difficulties, particularly vulnerable individuals. Because it appears in the goal 5 of the European training strategy, recognize, well, it could be one of the goals is to develop a recognized training course for youth workers connected to possible credentials paths, ensuring our recognition of detached youth work when working with emotional support at risk young people when facing tough situations in their communities. In other words, working together all the disciplines to support them and to value the work or the duty that other workers are doing. So thank you so much. And open for the Q&A sections. Thanks.
Thank you. I must admit, I was a bit shocked with the figures that you showed at the beginning of your presentation. But you gave us a lot of very useful tips, which we can use in reaching out to those vulnerable young people and to develop useful strategies in the prevention of mental health. You gave us a lot of information. I don't know if there are any questions from the participants. No. Then once again, Professor, thank you very much for your presentation, and we'll go on with the next part of our program, and then we are again on schedule. Next part of our program is an interview by Anna Knobhout, member of the Advisory Council of Youth. Anna, the floor is yours.
Hello, I am Maria Vsadny and I will be interviewing Anna today. I am a Youth Information Ambassador and I form part of ERYICA's Youth Ambassador Commission. I am currently in my final year of my law degree at the University of Malta, and mental health is a topic which I take great interest in, as it has been something that has been pushed to the side for too long, and it is now time to give it the priority that deserves. I now invite Anna, kNOw to introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Knobhout. I am 22 years old. I am currently in my master degree on constitutional law, and I'm based in the Netherlands. I am a person who has lived with mental health issues since I was a teenager, and now I speak about it on a regular basis. To help people understand more about mental health problems among young people.
Anna, you have described yourself as someone who has lived with mental health issues. Could I ask you, to whom did you go to help for at first? Were you looking for some tips online or advice from peers or mental health professionals?
Yes, well, I was 18 years old at the time, and I was in my last year of high school. And I actually did not have the resources enough to notice how bad my mental health was getting. So at one point, it was sort of too late, and I was at a breaking point, and I went to my teacher at a class I had that time. And I went to him and I said, hey, it's not going very well. I really need some help. I really don't know what to do. So I first went to my teacher, and then we together we looked for some options online, and I went into treatment.
Okay. And speaking of which, were there any resources you found useful after you contacted with your teacher? Maybe some guides, videos, or blogs?
We looked online and we came across some safety plans for suicide prevention. In the Netherlands, there is a big organization called 113. and they provide safety plans on suicide prevention. But we found that it was very adult focused, so not much for young people to, because when you're young, you don't really know what's going to help you, you're very new to it, of course. But also when you're in a crisis, and it doesn't really help if things are adult focused and surrounded around work, or things like, if you're looking for help, please go to your partner. If you're 18 years old and you're in high school, that doesn't really help. So yeah, I found some resources online, but they were very adult focused and not very helpful for me at the time.
Thank you for sharing that. So now, what are the main areas of mental health literacy in which young people require more information and guidance?
I'm a huge supporter for early detection on mental health. Acting before it's too late. And also, I think young people really need to get some help in asking how to ask for help. For example, in the Netherlands, there are 75% of the young people are living with symptoms of burnout. So, and studies have shown that most of them don't ask for help or don't know how to ask for help. So in my opinion, it's very important that people are taught how to do that, and which areas are safe to do that in.
Thank you. And as you had mentioned, the information you had found was more adult focused. And so in your opinion and your experience, what is the key to making this information youth-friendly?
I think it's important to create some sort of school lessons, or maybe even a school course where children or young people in high school, but also in middle schools, can learn from an early age on how to detect the symptoms of mental health problems, and also what are mental health problems and how you can get help for them. So that's one thing that's very, in my opinion, that's important. The other thing that's important is to create more access for these lessons, to create like nationwide courses that are just taught around all high schools, so not just in a particular one high school or something. I think also what's important, as the person who spoke before us stated, that there are some groups that are more at risk. For example, LGBTQI+ communities, and I think young people need more guidance in those specific areas as well, to see that they are not alone in their struggles, or in the community, for example.
Thank you for your input. To explain briefly, ERYICA is planning a series of podcasts for young sector professionals related to the mental health of young people. Are there any topics which you suggest we should tackle?
Yes, I think, like I said, LGBTQI+ risk factors are important to state in a podcast about mental health. But I also think that's more important to talk about the prevention on mental health problems in general, and less about suicide prevention, because you want to act before getting to the point of suicide prevention. So I think it's important to tackle that beforehand. I also think that it's important to create a podcast episode about being trauma informed as a youth worker, and how trauma can be presented in other ways among young people and teenagers.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the participants? If you would please use the hand reaction. So, because I cannot overview all the participants, I see Anna from ERYICA. Please,
Hello. Anna. Hello, Anna, nice to meet you. Just out of curiosity, you said that 75% of young people in the Netherlands are experiencing burnout. Why? What do you think are the causes of that? Why do you think they are so, like, they are experiencing such a massive burnout, let's say?
Well, to be honest, I'm not a researcher, I'm not an expert, but in my what I see from the people around me is that, for example, so COVID was hard for young people in general, but in my classmates and let me rephrase. People around me experience high pressure among university, among money, about energy bills, and even they think that they're alone in that because, for example, the media or the governance in the Netherlands doesn't really pay much attention to young people surrounding those problems. For example, everyone got some sort of help in their energy bills, but young people did not. So what I'm trying to say is that young people experience those problems and they are not talking about it because they're ashamed. So I think that creates a pressure for them to, live like they're adults, but they're not being really treated as adults.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I recognize the things you point out in the Netherlands, because I am in the Netherlands as well. There's a poverty which isn't seen really on young people, and of course there's for young people there's an enormous gap which was created through COVID, and I think that sure there should be more attention to mental health problems in the Netherlands as well. Thank you for your contribution. Maria, for you a question. What would you say are the main information needs of young people on the topic of mental health? As a youth ambassador from the Youth Ambassadors Commissioner, what would you say?
Yeah, I think the main priority should be that we provide information that is clear and accessible to youths. Like, for example, not using difficult scientific jargon, but being like straight to the point, and putting these sources through means which youths are already using. Like social media, for example, it's a good way to reach youths without having them have to take extra additional steps to actually find that information. So I think what the main issue is, and also having that information be unbiased and sort of confidential. So if they reach out further towards other professionals, having them provide them with a safe and confidential space to share their experiences and to help them out.
Thank you. It's good to see that the point of view from the researchers are connecting with the point of view of you as a young people, young ambassadors. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Yeah.
Our next part of the program is about perspectives and successful stories, and we have some examples of them. And I first like to invite Gara from Greece, who is a member of the national agency there. Gara.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting my organization. My name is Gara. I am a psychologist and psychotherapist. I represent today ESS NGO, a mental health organization based in Greece since 2005. And today I would like to share with you some good practices that are based and addressed to youth, and how through our practices and methodologies we do provide and we do promote well-being for youth. So if we I need some minutes in the next slide to present you my organization that I represent. ESS is a non-profit organization that founded in 2005, and we are active in the field of social inclusion, mental health and education. We provide a variety of actions and psychosocial support to different target groups, vulnerable groups, specifically people with mental health problems, homelessness and poverty action, women victims of violence, asylum seekers, children and youngsters, and of course we provide educational support to professionals of the humanitarian and educational sector. If we move to the next slide. I would like today to present you to mainly focus on our youth field, because if we say that ESS has two main pillars. The first, of course, is mental health, as we have housing facilities all over Greece. And the second pillar, our main pillar, of course, is the youth field and how we can promote the destigmatization of mental health stigma and how we can mobilize youth. So if we can start our methodology, I would like to present you that, first of all, we have the two main interns and volunteers all around Europe, as we are a certified educational organization. We do have European Solidarity Corps and European projects, and of course we have 8,000 volunteers that we involve them through our services and housing facilities. So if you go to the first cycle with the verb provide, what we do provide is services to our housing facilities as volunteers. So our volunteers and our interns, they do have the opportunity with the supervision, of course, and with the support that they need. They are working as volunteers in our housing facilities that we host and are addressed to mental health users. In the second circle, as you can see, our main scope is to create a youth community accessible for all. So we do have from the first hand the people in need, the people that have and that are dealing with mental health diseases, and from the other hand we have youth population, we have volunteers that they are educating themselves, they are supervising themselves in collaboration with experts from ESS, and we are trying to create a youth community in order to earn experiences and the benefits of active citizenship. So through this collaboration, we are trying to motivate them for a more active social life. What we're trying to do is to give them motivations, give them tools in order to deliver their own ideas and projects. So right now, all the volunteers and painters, from the one hand, they are working as volunteers and to provide their services in our housing facilities. From the other hand, we have our youth centers through which they create their own ideas and projects. So if we go to the next slide now, I would like to now, with some visualizing photos, to show you what our volunteers in different kind of periods before and after COVID, meta-COVID era, what we were trying to do was and are raising awareness events. What we are trying to do is to create this community of youth workers accessible for all the target groups without discrimination. And what we are trying to do is to create altogether huge events, not only in the city center of Athens, but all around Greece, with national and European volunteers, and altogether to fight for the destigmatization of mental health and to promote the importance of volunteer all around Europe, because it's very important to start disseminating even more the importance of volunteering and the opportunities that are given, not only to our national context, but even more to a European context. So if we go to the next slide now, this is the name, the brand of our youth centers, Connect Your City. The Connect Your City youth centers are now 7, a total number in Greece, and currently we have 1 in Brussels. Were created by young people, for young people, and this is the biggest asset. Here in Greece specifically, we had and we were dealing with a gap in youth working, and what we are trying to do since 2014 is to maximizing the number of volunteers, is to promoting the well-being of volunteers and to provide new opportunities for people that want to take and to give services even to themselves, even to people in need. So if we go to the next slide, I would like you to present some indicators with specifically the 4 projects awarded by the European Commission. What we are trying to do is to have a bigger, a wider amount of organization all over the EU. So we are trying to organize, to create new ideas, not only from the needs detected by our national volunteers, but to combine ideas from all over Europe, to create new ideas, to submit European projects, and then to implement with the support from our volunteers. So right now we have 4 awarded projects by the European Commissions. And of course, right now we have more than 100 active European projects that they give us the opportunity to organize more events, huger events, and not only with our national, but also with our international volunteers and stakeholders. So if we go to the next slide, I would like you to present, it's very important from today's opportunity, and thank you very much for that, to present you the methodology of our youth centers. So it is divided in 5 main pillars. The first is the gamification. So what we are trying to do is to transfer the volunteering in a more gamified environment. So we created the Connect Your City mobile application, which is a real-life role-playing game where we challenge young people to play, to implement volunteering activities, socializing, gaining experiences, and improve their soft skills. I will tell you more to the next slide. The next pillar is sport. Through Connect Sport, we organize a variety of sporting activities while also volunteering for the Hellenic Olympic committees. What we are trying to do is, of course, to promote well-being through sport and a more healthy life. The third pillar is culture. Through Connect Culture, we have the opportunity to holistically support and promote new artists and individuals who want to get involved in the field of culture and art. The fourth sector is academy. Through Connect Academy, we enhance young people's soft skills and connect them with potential employers to find a job or help them get or started in a business. So we are certified vet center, and what we are trying to do is to empower and to enhance and to continuously training young people in different kind of soft or hard skills. And of course, we are trying to promote their employability opportunities through also the networking with other organizations, of course. And the fourth and the fifth, pillar is active citizenship. Wanted to give young people a voice. We set up local youth councils where young people discuss their issues and make policy proposals. For example, we do have European projects in a KA3 context, but while we are trying to create policies and while we are trying to give a voice to the youth in order to start recommending different kind of policies in different kind of fields, such as climate crisis or mental health. So these are the main 5 pillars. And if I go to the next slide now. Great, thank you. If we go to the next slide, you can see the gamification of the volunteerism, or what we call the mobile application that we have created. It's an innovative application that combines youth empowerment and fun in order to motivate young people to engage in a variety of topics and explore different aspects of themselves. So players complete recreational, educational, or voluntary activities, and upon completion, they earn points, and through these points, they have access to different kinds of gifts and privileges from other NGOs all over Greece. The vision behind this mobile application that right now has 8,000 active users is to take this application, take this initiative, take this good practice and transfer in a pan-European context. So if we go to the next slide, you will see how this application works. So we log in, a youngster creates an account and has direct access to the content of the application. Of course, it's in English and in Greek. Then we have access to a variety of challenges. So there is a list of available challenges that one can complete. When one chooses a challenge, he or she can send a photo as proof of its implementation. Then the administrators passes the corresponding points, and then we starting earning some score that, as you can see, there's a total score system through which all the participants has a total score, and they have access to different gifts and awards from different organizations. For example, some winners have the opportunity also to travel through youth exchanges or other European projects. And as you can see in the map, the participant has the chance to see what is happening to their local context as well. Not only, for example, in Athens, but to their neighborhood. And not only in Athens, but also to the western part of Greece, for example. So what we are trying to do through these 8,000 volunteers is also to gamify the volunteerism and to promote how important is for the well-being and for the destigmatization of mental health stigma to have access to these good practices, which of course are free to use. And if we go to the next slide, thank you. Great. This is just a collaboration with other organization, but the main thing that I would like to mention here is that the application is a dissemination tool directly targeted at young people. So this creates the opportunity to promote events through the app, giving the player points for their participation and promoting the event directly to young audience. So even for the organizations that are involved and uploading different challenges, even for these organizations, it's very important because they have access to youth people and they do disseminating their events. And from the other hand, the volunteers have the opportunity to check what are their opportunities to their neighborhood and what kind of different activities could be involved for earning points and accepting the challenges and being a part of the Connect Your City application, like a community of youth. And if we go to the next slide, as you can see, it's a selection of various events from different organizations. It's a participation in events for socializing and peer learning. From the other hand, is an improvement of soft skills, teamwork, and communication. And of course, through the networking and by connecting to each other, it increased the employment opportunities. If we go to the next slide. Except the application and except the gamification of the volunteerism, through our youth centers, Connect Your City, we're going to the next, to the biggest impact. We are organizing and we are implementing together with our volunteers huge events celebrating each time different aspects. For example, this is a huge event took place in Sidama Square, celebrating the International Peace Day Festival. So it was all organized and created by our volunteers. So you can understand that this was a huge event, and what we are trying to do before that was happened in 2019, and from now and then and on, we are trying to organize huge events like that, huge festivals like that every single year. So if we go to the next slide. So this is a photo from our festival for visualizing also the impact that this event had. And next slide. And one more good practice, except the application that I told you, except the huge events that we organize with our volunteers, is what we did during COVID-19 together with our volunteers. Because what we're trying to do is to mobilize them. From the one hand, we had too many requests from people with mental health needs, from people that were in their houses suffering from mental health problems. And from the other hand, we had volunteers that they would like to help, and they were coming and saying, hello, how can I help? Tell me, how? So as ERYICA, we created a response team to COVID-19. So if we go to the next slide, from the time that pandemic appeared and to the previous. From the previous time, from when the COVID-19 breakdown happened, from then and now, we have 500 houses by the service intervention in the community. We have realized that a large number of people belonging to socially vulnerable groups need support in their daily lives, specifically with practical matters. This can refer to the purchase and transportation of basic necessities, as to their need for company and creative leisure activities. So we therefore created actions through our service aiming at supporting socially vulnerable groups, such as the elderly, people with mental health and physical disabilities, and people with increased vulnerability due to COVID-19. So what we used is, together with psychologists, together with social workers, together with experts, we utilized also the volunteers. And right now we have more than 500 houses that are supported by this service. And if we go to the next slide, from the 6 months, more than 100, from the 6 months that the COVID-19 breakdown happened, more than 100 volunteers have been activated and support 60 households. And until now, it's more than 500. While in November 2020, it is expected that a cooperation agreement will be signed with the municipality of Athens and the municipality of New Philadelphia in order to undertaking the support of 150 additional households. Right now, we have a memorandum of understanding with 13 municipalities, and we are trying to respond to the bigger amount of households that need help in a more practical sense. And together with volunteers, we are trying to respond to many cases that are coming after the COVID-19 breakdown and until now, because we are continuously and we are trying to keep this service and not to lose all the household and all the work done so far. And through the gamification, if we go to the previous slide for summing up, thank you. And through the gamification, young people are mobilized to organize and implement volunteer actions in real time with few steps, low cost, and great social impact. And of course, this is how social innovation is achieved. And for summing up, through these three main pillars, for example, the gamification of the volunteerism, the Connect Your City application, the second, the big events, and the third, the intervention in the community activities, it's very important these projects to involve European volunteers through European projects and to maximizing the impact of our services. thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, to present our initiatives, and hopefully to have more opportunities to see also what else we can do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gara. And I apologize for the false introduction I made of ESS, of your organization. Sorry. A very interesting project and a very interesting methodology. Are there any questions from the participants? No? I have one question, because you're talking about expanding to a European level, and I see a lot of connection with youth work and youth information work. How do you see that connection? How can we use each other's skills, opportunities to create more of these houses, or houses into youth centers?
What we are trying to do is, first of all, through European projects, we detect the needs, and we create, together with our partners, some ideas addressed to the needs that come directly from the field. So if we detect the need for more training skills, or for empowering the communicational skills to the volunteers that work directly to the households, then with our partners all over Europe, we are trying to submit European projects directly for empowering the skills of youth. So first of all is that through European projects, and secondly, what we are trying to do is through youth exchanges and the exchanges of good practices to try to maximizing this service also to other contexts, because as we can see after COVID, a lot of similar services are right now implementing in other European countries as well. So we're trying to combine requests and to create new initiatives, European ones.
And what I'm especially interested in is how you see the connection on a local level, because part of the methodology is used in the methodologies of youth work and youth information work, and it would strengthen each other if that could be combined on a local level.
That's why, and through the application, we are trying also to, for the local enterprises, for example, we are trying to combine different activities, smaller or bigger events, and we are trying to update the volunteer or the youth that you have also the opportunities to be part of a local event, for example. And through the application, we upload activities that are happening in my neighborhood, and I can choose to be in one and support my local service, for example. So what we can see after COVID, that we have some problems with transportation and everything, and we are kind of isolated, you know how that went. We noticed that it's very important for the youth to stay to their neighborhood, to have opportunities to their neighborhood, and to have access to different kinds of services. But first of all, it's very important for the youth to know what is happening to their neighborhood. So we are trying to fix that through this gamification, but still we are trying to involve many different neighborhoods all over Greece. And you understand that this is a problem for now, but still it's getting more and more interesting for the youth.
A huge challenge it is, yes. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
presentation. The next is Patricia from the National Agency for Youth Information in Luxembourg. Patricia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dick. Hello, everyone. A nice e-meeting you all. I guess, yes, I'll wait for Angelina to put the presentation on. Thank you very much. So yeah, today I'm going to present myself. So I'm Patricia, as already mentioned. I work for the Youth Information or the National Youth Information Agency in Luxembourg. I coordinate, or I'm the Youth Information Network Coordinator, which means I coordinate youth information quality label and projects with organizations that offer youth information services. And today I'm going to talk about and present our current project, Mental Health and Wellbeing Practical Information for Youth, which is a project that was launched this year, so it's very recent. It's a project financed by Œuvre Nationale de Secours Grande Duchesse Charlotte, which is a long name, but it's a public establishment here in Luxembourg that finances projects. And this main focus was on mental health for young people. So we decided to take our chance and to participate, and our project got picked up, which we are very happy about. So if you move on to the next slide, you will see our main objectives. So we wanted to create a project. This is a 2-year project. As I said, it launched this year, so there are actions that already took place, and there are actions taking place right now and also planned for next year, was to inform, promote mental health and well-being, and to equip. So it's not only for young people, but also for youth workers, professionals in the field. As a coordinator of the Youth Information Network, I got a lot of requests from youth workers saying that during the pandemic, but also now post-COVID, young people come to youth workers to talk about their issues. And sometimes youth workers don't know exactly where to draw the line. They're not therapists, so what should I do? What can I do? So our idea was also to take this into consideration, but of course also to provide quality and youth-friendly information about mental health and well-being topics, to give a voice to young people. And the next slide, you will see a quick overview of the actions planned. So this is a project where we tried to plan as many actions as possible to get it out there, to promote well-being and mental health. So we tried to provide young people and professionals with information related to this topic in different forms through different communication channels. So we started, which was very obvious for us, with our website. So we have a website called jugendinfo.lu, where we write articles that are youth-friendly, very easy to understand. I know that I think it was Maria who mentioned we don't need this terminology who's very difficult to understand. We need it straight to the point. So what we tried to do was to focus on mental health topics and create articles that are easy to understand. For instance, we created an FAQ where young people can find very basic first answers to questions like, what is mental health? Where do I find a therapist? What does it mean going to therapy? What does it cost? Is it refunded? So we really tried to provide first answers to the questions for young people. Then the second pillar, as already mentioned, professionals. We had a lot of requests and we really tried to cover also this area. So we organized workshops with experts in the field. The workshops ended last week and it was a huge success, and we will probably do it again next year. And from these workshops, we created sort of a booklet, a toolbox with exercises, role playing, also a little bit of theory for professionals. This booklet is in the making and will be published on our website. It's in French, so I don't know if there is anyone who's interested. You can contact me, or as I said, it will be published soon on our website, jugendinfo.lu. Then, so we had the written content, and now we tried to focus also on social media. Young people are on social media, so we really tried to create short videos that explain topics and issues of mental health. the terminology. So there are so many words we hear: anxiety, depression, BFRB. What does this mean? And also to show young people here in Luxembourg where they can find help. So presenting support services. This is something that is in progress. We already published some videos. You can find them on our social media platforms on Instagram, where we gave, so we had the week of mental health here in Luxembourg, and we gave the voice to young people so they could tell what does it mean for them, what does mental health mean to them. So this is the video part. And then last year, the European Youth Information Day, the topic for the campaign was Mind My Mind. So we organized a live talk, which was online. So we had young people, testimonials talking about their mental health issues. It was kind of a round table online, and we were very surprised with how many participants we had. So we decided to do this again, but really live in classrooms. I think it was Anna who also mentioned it's important to go to the high schools to talk about this topic. And this is why we are organizing live talk workshop sessions in high schools with experts, of course. The young people decide on the topic, for instance, eating disorders, and then we call an expert, and with the expert together, we go to the high schools and figure out how to do a workshop session around that topic. And last but not least, we have written, we have visual, the audio, a podcast we launched, or we are launching, this is planned for next year, with young people for young people. So we gathered young people and asked them, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to hear about? What information do you need? And together with them, we are organizing this podcast, which I'm looking forward to this. So as you see, we have a panoply of actions planned. We really try to cover every communication channel possible to get this topic out there and to basically destigmatize this topic of mental health and well-being. So if you go to the next slides, you can see a quick overview of the articles published. We publish our articles in French and in German, which are the languages here in Luxembourg. So on our website, you can find them. The next slide will show a little bit more into detail what we tackled on the workshops. So there was workshops about understanding and recognizing emotions, about the expression of emotions, taking care of oneself and protecting oneself in relationship with the other. So as I mentioned before, this was for the youth workers. And in the booklet, we try to combine the methodology, like the theory and practice, with theoretical input, role-playing, group exercises, activities, etc. And the next slide will show the videos that we already did with young people. Since we have this particularity here in Luxembourg of the languages, we had young people talking in Luxembourgish, in English, and in French about what does mental health mean to you. It was a very nice project we did for the week of mental health here in Luxembourg. And yeah, that's actually it from my side. If you want to know more, you can always contact me or take a look at our website, jugendinfo.lu. And thank you very much for this opportunity to present our project. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions from the participants? I see a hand of Anna.
Hi.
Please.
Thank you so much, and very excited to hear all your initiatives and everything. I was wondering, did you include in your workshops, young people in the process, or for example, in the role-playing, talking about the workshops for the professionals?
Yes, so the workshops were only for the professionals. So what we did was we had an expert come over and teach them some exercises as role playing, for instance, but with themselves, like it was adults role playing. But the idea is to, yes, to take that as a youth worker and to implement it with young people. So there were no young people involved, but yeah, the idea is to in a practical way to do it with young people for sure. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice suggestions. Nice suggestion, Anna. Julie. What was the most interesting topic of the workshops for the professionals? That's where their needs. You say that the workshops were very successful.
Yes. So definitely the part of protecting themselves as youth workers. So where to draw the line, it was the last workshop, if I'm not mistaken. And it was the one everyone was looking forward the most. Because as what they said is, we are not therapists, right? But we want to help our young people. We don't know how to, we don't know how far can we go, what should we do, what should we say? And I think that there is still more to learn. One workshop was not enough to cover it all, but I think it was already good to have like a first impression of what to do, how to react when there is a young person coming to a youth worker and having issues or talking about their mental health issues.
And then I suggest that it also means that they need a good network if they see that they're drawing the line and can't give the services that they need,
Definitely.
that they can. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, which is also why we decided to also on our website, they have a quick overview of the services that exist for mental health or for well-being for young people, because even though Luxembourg is a small country, I mean, it's not easy to find the right service, the right organization, where to reach out to. We don't want to send the young people to multiple services, because after they will be frustrated, right?
Yep.
They don't get the help there, they don't get the help here. So it's important also exactly to have this knowledge and this know-how of who am I addressing and where can I send this young person to.
Thank you. It'll be very interesting to see the development of your project. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next good practice is from Spain, and it's by Sylvia and Mariona. And I must admit that I can't properly pronounce the name of your city. I'm sorry, that's bad in French.
Don't worry, it's been a long time.
Spanish. Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dick. I'm Mariona, and she's Sylvia. I'm the one who is going to give the talk. And I used to work as a youth worker here in Castellterçol city. And Sylvia was the head of the public service of how would I say, social service, head of the social service area of the council. So on this project, we worked together. So thank you for having us here. We are really pleased to be here and really excited as well. So we are going to start with a little contextualization of the project. It's on the next slide. Okay, so to make it kind of clear, we are in Spain, Catalonia. Catalonia is divided in different regions. We'd say that it's Moianès, and in Moianès, in this region, there is Castellterçol, which is a town with 632 inhabitants, which on this there are 270 teenagers and young adults between 15 to 24 years old. And here we have this public service for young people, which is called Castellcioa, which is a youth information and counseling place. And there, in 2021, after all the lockdown, after all the COVID measures and so, Sylvia and I started to detect the consequences of these measures, like the isolation, like feeling lonely. We started to sense this increment of distress. And me there, working with youngers, we detected that they needed to talk, that they needed to share, and at the end they really needed to be listened. And with all of this, and they needed to understand themselves, and they had a lack of these skills. So with this diagnosis, Sylvia and I started to think of a project to give a response to these needs. And this leads us to the next step. So we wanted to create a permanent resource of information and tips, something that they can have, that they can apply to their daily life, and not only one day, but for the daily life, like now that they are teenagers, when they grow up and they are adults, and so and so and so. And then we thought that this space for understanding feelings, understanding emotions, there wasn't a place where they can feel secure and when they can really understand what is really going on inside them. So the other objective was to create room for these feelings and emotions. And as a public service, we understood the service as one of the things that we have to give response is to take care of teenagers' wellness. So we had the Castellcioa as a place where they can feel secure, when they can talk, where they can share, and they can be sustained. Like, yes, okay, people, we are here for you, and become a referent of youth policies, not only in the city, but only in the region. So this led us to, okay, now we have these objectives, what do we do next, right? Like what can we create to achieve these objectives? So this leads us to the next slide. And the methodology we think we could use was creating a guide, but thinking of the things they need, or a guide that it's not only theoretical, but only containing practices. So we wanted to create a visual, quick, clear, and practical, and useful material for them to understand the emotions. So the aim was like, okay, I feel all these emotions, and we related this with the basic ones, the four basic emotions. We could say that it's fear, joy, sadness, and anger. And to understand what do these emotions tell us about ourselves and about what is happening to our life. This is more the theoretical part, and then it contains exercises to practice to recognize these feelings and how to deal with this, with recognizing your own breathing, with recognizing your own thoughts, your own inner speaker, as it is said, and little practices on empathy as well. So having these parts, sometimes it's difficult to arrive the youngs, and that it really has an impact on them. So then we thought, what actions can we do to make them arrive this message? So it leads us to the next slide. And we thought of different actions. First of all, there was a delivery home to home. We sent every little person of the town a template of the guide, which is here. It's in Catalan, so. And then we thought that it wasn't enough. So we contacted with the high school of the town, and we thought that it was very important, not only the theoretical parts, but also do the practice, right? This sometimes it's easy to understand, but sometimes from the theory to the practice part, there's a gap that we wanted to fill. So we went to the we went to the high school to introduce the guide, to make an official presentation to them that make them feel comfortable with it, that we were thinking about their daily stress, their emotions, that we were there as a public service to give a response to that. And also we created a YouTube channel of Castellciudad with some meditation or with just breathing exercises, because this could help them to use it at home. And also in this workshop, we also give the sample, we give a little merch about some bracelets with some affirmations about I love myself, I smile myself, I believe in me, because they had a daily reminder of this material. So after these actions, after this, we could send some outcomes and feedback about the project. Actually, after this presentation in high schools, we could see an increase of the orientation and counseling at Castell. So first, the service was more like a place where you can spend the afternoon, talk with friends, talk with a youth worker, but more informal. And then they come to okay, I'm feeling that way, what can I do? And then we could just, if we could handle it, we could give response, or we could like send them to other service, like I don't know how to say now this in English, but other services that take care of more specific of the topic of mental and emotional health. It also changes the dynamics, the group dynamics. For example, when someone was angry, they come in, okay, I'm going to sit down here and breathe and say, okay, I need to go away from my friends because I'm angry or because I'm sad today. I'm just going to sit down. And they started to incorporate this new vocabulary for them. So that was really nice to see. And what surprises us was like not only teenagers use this, but also adults came here in the council like, okay, Silvia, can you give me an example of the sample, please? Because I need this. And furthermore, there were narcissists and teachers that came out, okay, I'm giving this to my patients, to my pupils at the high school and the hospital, or in the basic in the hospitals. Yeah. So for us was, wow, really, really important, because we think that the message is more powerful when it comes from different places, not only from the youth work. And this is, I think we can do this very specific, very personal, because we are a little town. So this gives us advantage of being present and being more like having proximity with the teenagers. And so after that, we think, then I think there's a place, there's still the sample, they have it also in Instagram. And it's like we would like to go on with different workshops and so, because the practice is not only one day, we know we have to practice. And here we are trying to get a life of teenagers' life better as we can. So thank you very much for listening to us. And if you have any questions, we will really pleased to answer.
Thank you, Sylvia and Mariona. Are there any questions? I found it very interesting to hear that by this project, you have expanded the function of the youth center. And that was a very interesting development from that. Patricia mentioned one of the topics of the workshops was how to draw the line in your services to young people. How do you cope with that issue?
Yeah, actually, this was because I studied psychology, so this background helped me to create all these content. And for example, when they get more of mental disorders, or you can sense this, it's like, okay, we are here, it's a secure space, but we cannot give a response on that because it's not our function. I don't know if I'm answering it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, as a youth worker, there are different backgrounds on every youth worker. So it's very important for the youth worker to know where the boundary is. I actually agree with Patricia with that, because we don't know everything, and teenagers need a lot of information. They want it, but you have to know where is your border. So when it leads like, okay, I have this problem with that person, or I have the problem with my family, you can more or less like listen. It's more like listening, not giving a response sometimes. And you don't say, okay, that's it. And then when you sense that, okay, maybe there's something more, then there are social services or so that we are coordinated with them, so we know the information. So being little gives us this opportunity to go focus on the needs of each person, not of all, of course, because we needed a lot of more people always. But yeah.
Thank you. And I think that your youth center is a very good example on how to act on the problem of mental health and how to expand the function of your youth center. Very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thanks to you.
Then we still have some more speakers. I'd like to introduce Anna Nesladek. She's the project manager of ERYICA, and Anna is going to tell us some more about e-minds, sorry.
Hello, everyone. It's very nice to be here with you today. And congrats to the speakers. It's been very interesting. I will briefly present our Erasmus Plus project, Youth Information Minding Young People's Mental Health. So, starting from the needs from which this project was born, I would like to say that they were identified within the ERYICA network. In fact, we realized that, especially after the pandemic, youth information workers were increasingly confronted with the mental health issues of young people. As our director also mentioned at the beginning, our 2021 European Youth Information Day campaign aimed to raise awareness on the importance of mental health. The campaign survey showed alarming data on the state of young people's mental health as a consequence of the pandemic. But apart from the pandemic, we have other factors that have an influence on mental health of young people, like the massive use of new technologies, which is leading to other mental health problems. So is the war in Ukraine, for example, and the international tensions, the cost of the bills, the climate change, or the refugees movement. Factors as the lack of labor opportunities, as other speakers also pointed out very well. So let's say that young people mental health is really a global issue. And the World Health Organization recommends an integrated and holistic approach to this topic based on a multi-stakeholders perspective, which is exactly what we will try to do with our project on mental health. So some basic information. The name of the project is Youth Information Minding Young People's Mental Health. The acronym is eMinds. It started officially on the 1st of October 2022, and it will come to an end on the 30th of September 2024. But it has not officially started because our kickoff meeting will be next week in Brussels. And as I said before, in line with this holistic approach to mental health, we will try to put together youth information workers, young people, and mental health experts in this project. So the consortium is composed of us, ERYICA, we are the coordinators. We have partners from Estonia, the Youth and Education Board, Arno. The region of Madrid is also involved, as well as the Jugendinfos in Austria, the Ambrassade in Belgium, Cyprus Youth Council in Cyprus, IASIS, the Greek organization that you saw before, presented at good practices, Young Scots and Eurodesk, that are associated partners, but will be also like partners in this project. And we have an ERYICA Youth Ambassadors Commission member involved in the project, Maria, that you also saw before. She's from Malta, and she will be involved in all the steps of the project. And also, it's important to underline that the other youth ambassadors have been involved in drafting the proposal for this project. So we really try to involve the young people from the beginning. So the objectives are, first of all, to enhance the mental health literacy of youth information workers, and to provide tools to equip youth information workers to identify mental health distress among young people when they are in contact with them, offer them first-hand support, and refer them to specialized services if needed. For example, you will see later, but we will develop a guide to do all this. Then we will try to foster cooperation between mental health experts, young people, and youth information workers, as I said before. There will be a focus on sharing good practices between countries. That's why also the importance of doing a European project on this topic. Then other important objectives are to the fight against the mental health stigma, foster peer-to-peer approach to mental health and well-being, and the adoption of guide the adoption of different measures at different levels, local and European as well. So we have, as I said, 3 pillars in this project: youth information workers, young people, and mental health experts. And the outputs we want to produce will be addressed to these different targets. About the outputs addressed specifically to youth information workers, we will launch a survey to understand the level of mental health literacy. The survey will be the first step to develop a guide on about mental health literacy. Then we will organize a seminar on what mental health and well-being, addressed to all the stakeholders involved, the European level especially. There will be a podcast series on mental health, where youth information workers will be engaged in a sort of dialogue with young people, and they will both groups will tell their stories about how they mental health and how they deal with this topic on a daily life basis. And we will also try to draft some recommendations on mental health issues for policymakers at different levels. And for young people, we will first try to screen their perspectives on mental health. They will be, as I already mentioned, involved in the podcast series on mental health, along with youth information workers. They will be involved in an awareness raising campaign on the importance of mental health and well-being to fight against the mental health stigma. The campaign will be addressed to them, but they will be also the protagonists of the development of the campaign. And last but not least, there will be a mental health resilient toolkit And especially I want to point out that this last output was conceived by the young person involved in the process of conceptualizing this project. So yeah, this is, I mean, as I said before, this project hasn't started yet, so I cannot be more precise about the outcomes, but yeah, this is the general picture, and it's about to start, so stay tuned. We will have more news about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna, for your presentation. And like you said, it's the start of the project, and I'm looking forward to see not only the results, but also the development, especially when you are introducing and involving young people in the project. It's very interesting. Thank you very much for your presentation. We are at the end of this webinar. The aim of this webinar was to come with good practices, to come with some part of research, to see mental health from the mental health issue from different perspectives. And I think that that was very good. There were a lot of very good examples and very useful and valuable tips that were presented. So I hope that everyone has a chance to, if you haven't digested it all, which I can imagine because there was a lot of information, that there is a chance to see everything back. This webinar was recorded, so that would be possible. And I hope that there's a lot of inspiration for starting your own projects with the examples that you had today. I'd like to give now the closing words for Angelina Pereira, the Member Service Coordinator of ERYICA. But before I do that, Angelina, I want to thank you for accomplishing a very nice, interesting, valuable program on this webinar. I know it took a lot of work, but you did it very well, and very successful program. Thank you very much. Unmute yourself.
Great. That's what I tell everyone in the tech check in the morning, and then I do the same mistake as well. But thank you so much for giving me the floor, and also for doing the facilitation for us today. And just as a closing word, I would like to thank again the Council of Europe for our partnership that we have and cherish already for so many years, and to whom this webinar was also possible to make. And also thank you so much all the speakers that were today here to share their points of view, their experience, their knowledge with us. And I hope that the participants, whom I also thank from all my heart, got something for their work that either inspired them or brought some new thoughts to their work as well. And I just wanted as a last bit to say that yeah, mental health is a topic that we are working on in ERYICA for not the first time here today, but actually the whole section, one of the sections in our good practice booklet this year was also dedicated to the topic. And we also saw earlier today that 1 year, the campaign that we do every year was dedicated to the topic, and we will continue our work and continue producing resources for youth information workers and youth workers on the topic, because we see that the topic is really is an essential one these days. So you can check out our good practice booklet, and I would like to thank everyone again for being today with us. And this is our last webinar for this year with Council of Europe, and hope to see you in next occasions, next events, and have an amazing day. And well, Happy New Year and Merry Christmas is a bit too early, but enjoy your holidays as well. Goodbye.